I still remember the weight of that credit card in my trembling hand. The one I'd been saving for emergencies. The one that held my entire future. Don't worry, everyone. The broke girl will figure it out somehow. Those words came from Derek's mouth. My boyfriend of 3 years, said with a smirk while his entire family laughed around the table at Marcello's, the most expensive Italian restaurant in town. I was 24 years old, wearing a dress I'd bought on sale, sitting at a table where the appetizers alone cost more than my weekly grocery budget. Derek's mother, Patricia, had organized this dinner. A celebration, she called it. Derek's promotion to senior analyst. His sister Emma's engagement. The family's continued success. And me? I was just the accessory. The girlfriend who worked at a bookstore. The girl who didn't come from money. The one they tolerated because Derek found me refreshing. The restaurant was the kind of place where they don't list prices on the menu. Where the wine list reads like a mortgage payment. Where the waiters wear white gloves and call you madam, even when they're looking down on you. I'd felt uncomfortable the moment we walked in. The marble floors, the gold-trimmed everything, the other diners in their designer clothes. This wasn't my world. How much is your half, sweetie? Patricia asked, her voice dripping with fake concern. She knew exactly what she was doing. Her diamond bracelet caught the candlelight as she gestured toward the bill the waiter had just placed in the center of the table. Her perfectly manicured nails, her Chanel suit, her condescending smile. Everything about her screamed old money and new cruelty. My half. Of a dinner I hadn't even wanted to attend. I'll need to check, I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. My hands were shaking as I reached for my purse. Around me, Derek's family continued their conversation as if I weren't even there. As if watching someone squirm wasn't exactly what they'd planned for tonight's entertainment. Derek's father, Richard, was swirling his third glass of wine. His brother Marcus was on his phone, probably texting his mistress. Emma was showing off her ring to anyone who would look. And Derek just sat there, not defending me, not standing up for me, not being the man I thought I'd fallen in love with. The bill sat there like an accusation. $5,347 for 12 people. Bottles of wine I hadn't touched. Steaks I hadn't ordered. Desserts I hadn't eaten. And they expected me to pay half because Derek always pays for everything and it's time you contributed. I felt the walls closing in. The chandeliers above seemed to spin. Every eye in that restaurant felt like it was on me. The poor girl. The burden. The charity case. Derek kept around because he felt sorry for her. Emma leaned over, her engagement ring practically blinding me. It's okay if you can't afford it. We can, I don't know, maybe you can pay Derek back over time? Like monthly installments or something? The table erupted in laughter again. Actual laughter. At my expense. At my humiliation. But what they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that in my checking account, the one I'd never mentioned, the one I'd been building since I was 19, sat $104,000. Money from my side business. From investments. From years of saying no to brunches and shopping trips while they assumed I was just poor. Would I pay? Oh, yes. But not the way they expected. I reached into my purse slowly, deliberately. Let them think I was scrambling for spare change. Let them enjoy their moment of superiority. Patricia was already whispering to Richard, loud enough for me to hear. I told Derek she wasn't right for him. A bookstore clerk. Can you imagine? Derek shifted uncomfortably beside me but said nothing. Nothing. 3 years together, and he couldn't find his voice when his family turned me into their evening's entertainment. The waiter appeared at my elbow, professional but with that look. That subtle look that service workers give when they sense a scene coming. I'd seen it before. The anticipation of drama, the preparation for someone who can't pay. Miss, whenever you're ready, he said softly. I pulled out my wallet. The old leather one I'd had since college. Worn at the edges, practical. Everything they thought defined me as less than. Actually, Emma chimed in again, her voice syrupy sweet. Maybe we should split it differently? I mean, Derek's family shouldn't have to subsidize. I'll pay the full amount, I said quietly. The table went silent. 12 faces turned toward me like I'd just spoken in tongues. Patricia laughed first. Darling, it's over $5,000. We're not trying to put you in debt. We just thought, I know what you thought. My voice was steadier now. Something was shifting inside me. 3 years of subtle digs. 3 years of helpful comments about my clothes, my car, my apartment. 3 years of being introduced as Derek's girlfriend who works retail. Not my name. Not my accomplishments. Just my perceived lack of status. Marcus actually snorted. Okay, this should be good. What are you going to do? Put it on a credit card and pay interest for the next 5 years? I pulled out my phone instead. Opened my banking app, the one I checked every morning. The one that showed the fruits of 5 years of freelance web design, smart investments, and living below my means while everyone assumed I was just scraping by. No credit card needed, I said, pulling up the payment screen. My fingers didn't shake anymore as I entered the restaurant's payment information. Derek leaned over, trying to see my screen. Babe, seriously, you don't have to. I want to. I confirmed the payment. $5,347. Transferred instantly. The waiter's phone buzzed with the notification. He glanced down at it, and I saw his eyebrows raise just slightly. Payment received in full, he confirmed, his tone noticeably warmer now. Thank you very much, miss. Patricia's smile had frozen on her face. Well, that's very generous, dear. I'm sure that took quite a chunk out of my what? I asked, looking directly at her for the first time all evening. My savings, my budget? What exactly did you think I had, Patricia? The use of her first name, not Mrs. Morrison, made her flinch. Emma was staring at me with new eyes. Suspicious eyes. How does a bookstore clerk afford that? Maybe the same way a bookstore clerk affords anything, I replied, standing up from the table. I grabbed my purse, my coat. By being smarter than people give her credit for. Derek reached for my hand. Where are you going? Somewhere I'm actually valued. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. I made it 3 steps from the table before Patricia's voice cut through the restaurant like a knife. You think paying for one dinner makes you one of us? I stopped, turned around. Every table near us had gone quiet. This was the show they'd paid for tonight, apparently. Dinner and a spectacle. Patricia was standing now, her chair pushed back, her face flushed with wine and anger. You think throwing money around that you probably borrowed from some credit card makes you good enough for my son? Mom, please, Derek started, but she held up one perfectly manicured hand. No, Derek. This girl has been playing poor for sympathy for 3 years. And now suddenly she can drop $5,000 like it's nothing? Something doesn't add up. Richard nodded in agreement, his face smug. Patricia's right. What are you really doing, sweetheart? OnlyFans? Sugar daddy? Because bookstores sure as hell don't pay that well. The insult hung in the air like poison. I felt something crack inside me. Not break, crack. Like ice before it shatters completely. You want to know what I really do? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. I walked back to the table, pulled out my phone again. I design websites. I've been doing it since I was 19. Freelance. While working at the bookstore because I actually love books, not because I need the money. I pulled up my portfolio. Showed them the screen. That company you work for, Richard? Morrison & Associates? I designed your entire website 2 years ago. You paid my agency $45,000. You just never knew it was me because I use my middle name professionally. Richard's face went pale. That's impossible. Is it? I swiped to another project. And Emma, that boutique your fiancé owns? The one that finally started getting online orders? I built that e-commerce platform last year. $30,000. Emma's mouth opened and closed like a fish. But Patricia wasn't done. She lunged forward, grabbing my phone from my hands. This is fake. All of it. Derek, your girlfriend is a liar and a fraud. Give me my phone back, I said quietly. Not until you admit you're lying about all this. Not until you stop trying to manipulate my son with your little poor girl act. The restaurant manager was approaching now, sensing the situation escalating. But someone else got there first. I think you should give the young lady her phone back. The voice came from the table behind us. an older man, maybe 60, in an expensive suit. He stood up and I recognized him immediately. My stomach dropped. It was James Chen, CEO of Tech Vision Solutions, the company I'd done my biggest contract with last year. $78,000 for a complete digital overhaul. Derek's family didn't recognize him, but they were about to. "And you are?" Patricia demanded, still clutching my phone. "I'm someone who knows exactly who this young woman is," he said, walking over calmly. "And what she's worth. Unlike you, apparently." He looked at me with something like approval. "Ms. Sarah Chen, no relation, is one of the most talented web designers on the East Coast. When she told me she was keeping her day job at a bookstore because she loved literature, I respected that. When she told me she kept her success quiet because she wanted to know who truly valued her as a person, I understood. He turned to Patricia. "But watching you people humiliate her for sport? That I don't understand." Patricia's grip on my phone loosened. Marcus stood up aggressively. "Who the hell do you think you are, interrupting a family dinner? I'm James Chen, CEO of Tech Vision. Perhaps you've heard of us? We're only the third largest tech company in the state." The color drained from Marcus's face. This was getting interesting. Patricia's hand trembled as she placed my phone back on the table. Not in my hand. On the table. Like even now, she couldn't bring herself to treat me with basic respect. James Chen picked it up and handed it to me properly. "My apologies, Ms. Sarah. I was dining with colleagues when I couldn't help but overhear the commotion." Derek finally found his voice. "Mr. Chen, I'm sure this is all a misunderstanding. My family was just humiliating your girlfriend publicly?" James interrupted, his voice sharp. "Yes, I heard exactly what your family was doing. The entire restaurant heard." He was right. Every single diner was watching now. Phones were out. I could see at least 3 people recording. This was going to be all over social media by morning. Richard tried to salvage the situation, extending his hand for a handshake. "Mr. Chen, I'm Richard Morrison. Morrison and Associates. Perhaps we could discuss this more privately? I'm sure we can clear up any confusion." James looked at Richard's outstretched hand like it was contaminated. He didn't shake it. "There's no confusion, Mr. Morrison. I watched you accuse this young woman of prostitution because she could afford to pay for dinner. I watched your wife physically grab her property. I watched your entire family mock her for working an honest job while secretly being more successful than any of you." Emma's fiancé, Todd, tried to laugh it off. "Look, families joke around. It's what we do. Sarah knows we didn't mean—" "Didn't mean what?" I finally spoke, my voice cutting through his excuse. "Didn't mean it when you called me the charity case? When you said Derek kept me around out of pity? When you made betting pools about how long until I asked him for money?" Derek's face went white. "You knew about that?" "Of course I knew, Derek. You all thought I was stupid because I'm quiet. Because I don't flaunt money? Because I chose to work in a bookstore surrounded by stories instead of in some corporate office surrounded by people like your family." Patricia tried again, her voice shaking now. "Sarah, darling, if we'd known you were successful, we would have treated me like a human being?" I didn't mean to shout, but the words exploded out of me. "That's the problem, Patricia. You only respect people based on their bank accounts. You only treat people well when you think they're worth something financially." The manager appeared at James Chen's elbow. "Mr. Chen, is everything all right? Should I—" "Everything's fine, Marco," James said calmly. "Just watching some people learn an important lesson about assumptions." Emma was crying now, her mascara running, not from guilt. From embarrassment, from the realization that she was being recorded, that this was going viral, that her perfect image was crumbling. "Sarah, please," she sobbed. "Can we just talk about this privately, away from all these people?" "Why? So you can convince me to keep quiet? So your family doesn't look bad online?" Marcus slammed his fist on the table, making glasses jump. "This is ridiculous. So you have some money. Big deal. That doesn't change the fact that you've been lying to us for 3 years. Pretending to be poor. Playing the victim." "I never pretended anything," I shot back. "You all just assumed. I wore normal clothes, so I must be poor. I worked retail, so I must be desperate. I didn't drive a luxury car, so I must be struggling. Every assumption you made was based on your own prejudice. James Chen nodded approvingly. Exactly right. Derek reached for my hand again. This time I let him take it, only so I could look him directly in the eyes. 3 years, Derek. 3 years of your family treating me like garbage, and you never once defended me. Not once. His eyes were wet. I thought if I just gave it time, they'd come around. They'd see how amazing you are. They only see amazing when it comes with a price tag. I pulled my hand away. What happened next? Nobody saw coming. Derek's grandmother, Eleanor, had been sitting silently at the far end of the table the entire evening. 92 years old, sharp as a tack, and the only member of Derek's family I'd ever genuinely liked. She'd always been kind to me in small ways. A warm smile, a gentle question about my day. Nothing dramatic, but enough to make me feel seen. Now she stood up, her cane tapping against the marble floor with authority. "Sit down, all of you," she commanded. Even Patricia obeyed. That's the power Eleanor Morrison held in this family. She was the matriarch, the one who'd built the Morrison fortune from nothing after her husband died young. The one who'd turned a small insurance business into an empire. She walked slowly toward me, each step deliberate. The entire restaurant held its breath. When she reached me, she did something that shocked everyone. She took both my hands in her weathered ones and squeezed gently. "I'm sorry, child," she said softly. "I'm sorry for how they've treated you. I should have said something sooner." "Grandma, you don't need to apologize for—" Derek started. "Be quiet, Derek." Eleanor's voice cracked like a whip. "You've said enough for one lifetime." She turned back to me, her blue eyes still clear and piercing despite her age. "I knew you were more than you appeared, Sarah. A woman doesn't carry herself the way you do, with that quiet confidence, unless she knows her own worth. I've been watching you for 3 years, and I've been ashamed of my family for 3 years." Patricia's face went crimson. "Mother Morrison, with all due respect." "Respect?" Eleanor laughed, a dry sound. "You don't know the meaning of the word, Patricia. You married into money and forgot where you came from. Your own father was a mechanic, or have you conveniently forgotten that?" The silence that followed was deafening. Eleanor continued, still holding my hands. "I grew up during the Depression. I know what real poverty looks like, and I know what real character looks like. This girl has more integrity in her little finger than this entire table combined." She released my hands and turned to face her family. "Sarah paid for tonight's dinner, $5,000, without hesitation, without complaint. Even after you mocked her, degraded her, and treated her like she was beneath you." Richard tried to interrupt. "Mother, you were just being cruel." Eleanor cut him off. "You were testing her, pushing her, trying to make her break so you could justify your prejudice against her. Well, she didn't break. She stood tall. And now you're all sitting here looking like the fools you are." Emma was openly sobbing now. "Grandma, we didn't know—" "That's not an excuse. You didn't know because you never bothered to ask. You never bothered to see her as anything more than Derek's poor girlfriend. You never gave her a chance." James Chen was smiling now, clearly enjoying the show. He caught my eye and gave me a small nod of approval. Eleanor turned back to me. "Sarah, I need to tell you something. Something I should have mentioned months ago." My heart started racing. The way she said it, with such weight, such importance. "What is it?" I asked quietly. "I'm the majority shareholder in Morrison & Associates. 70%. Richard runs it, but I own it. And I've been looking for someone to eventually take over when I'm gone. Someone with business sense. Someone with character." Derek's jaw dropped. "Grandma, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that I've been testing everyone in this family for the past 5 years. Watching, evaluating, deciding who deserves to inherit what I've built." She looked at each family member slowly. "And every single one of you has failed. Every one of you has shown me greed, arrogance, and cruelty. Except for one person." Her eyes landed back on me. "Sarah, I've been having you investigated for the past year. I know about your web design business. I know about your investments. I know about your savings. And I know that you kept it all quiet not out of deception, but out of wisdom." My legs felt weak. "You've been investigating me? I wanted to know who you really were." And I found out you're exactly who I hoped you were. Someone who doesn't need my money but would know what to do with it. Someone who understands the value of work. Someone who treats people with respect regardless of their status. She pulled an envelope from her purse. This is why I came tonight. Everything was about to change. Eleanor held the envelope between us like it contained the secrets of the universe. Maybe it did. Inside this envelope is a contract, she said, her voice steady despite her age. A contract offering you a position as executive consultant for Morrison & Associates. Starting salary, $250,000 per year plus equity. Patricia actually gasped. Richard looked like he might have a heart attack. Derek just stared, his mouth hanging open like a broken door. You can't be serious, Marcus finally said, standing up so fast his chair fell backward. You're going to give some random girl a $250,000 job just because she can afford to pay for dinner? Eleanor's eyes turned to ice. Sit down, Marcus. And she's not some random girl. She's the woman who designed the website that tripled your brother's company revenue. She's the woman who built the platform that saved your sister's fiancé's failing business. She's the woman who's been subsidizing Derek's lavish lifestyle without any of you noticing. I felt my face flush. I didn't subsidize. Didn't you? Eleanor interrupted gently. Who paid for the weekend in Napa last month? Who covered the concert tickets Derek said he'd take care of? Who bought the new laptop he's been using for work? Derek's face went pale. Sarah, I was going to pay you back. You just assumed I couldn't afford it, so it didn't matter. I finished for him. You thought the amounts were small enough that I wouldn't ask for them back because I'd be too embarrassed to admit I needed the money. He couldn't meet my eyes. Eleanor pressed the envelope into my hands. This isn't charity, Sarah. This is business. I need someone I can trust to help transition this company into the modern age. Someone who understands technology. Someone who can't be bought or manipulated. Mother Morrison, you can't do this without consulting the board, Richard protested, his voice shaking. This is highly irregular. We have protocols. I am the board, Eleanor snapped. I have controlling interest. I don't need to consult anyone. And frankly, Richard, if you'd been doing your job properly, I wouldn't need to bring in outside help. James Chen spoke up from behind us. If I may interject, Eleanor, I think you're making an excellent choice. I'd be happy to provide a reference for Ms. Sarah. Her work is exceptional. Thank you, James, Eleanor said warmly. Then she looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Something between hope and sadness. But there's more, Sarah. Something else in that envelope. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside was the contract she'd mentioned, but also something else. Another document. Official-looking. Legal. I scanned the first page, and my heart stopped beating. This is a trust document. A $50 million trust, Eleanor confirmed. To be held in your name. Managed by you. With full discretion over its use and investment. No strings attached. No Morrison family control. The restaurant erupted into chaos. Patricia lunged forward. You're giving her $50 million? Your own grandchildren haven't received anything close to that. Because my grandchildren are spoiled. Entitled brats who would waste it within 5 years, Eleanor said coldly. Sarah has proven she knows how to build wealth, manage money, and live within her means. She's exactly the kind of person who should be trusted with this responsibility. Emma was hysterical now. This isn't fair. We're your family. We're your blood. And you've all shown me exactly what you'd do with money and power. You'd use it to hurt people. To feel superior. To crush anyone you perceive as beneath you. Eleanor's voice softened as she turned back to me. Sarah, I don't have much time left. Maybe a year. Maybe less. The doctors have been clear about that. I need to know my fortune goes to someone who will use it wisely. Someone who will help people, not harm them. Tears were streaming down my face now. Eleanor, I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it. Say you'll consider it. But before I could respond, Derek grabbed my arm, spinning me around to face him. You can't accept this, he said desperately. Sarah, please. Think about what this means. Think about us. I looked at him. Really looked at him. At the man I'd loved for 3 years. And I finally saw him clearly. Derek's grip on my arm tightened. Not enough to hurt, but enough to make his desperation clear. "Sarah, if you accept this, it'll destroy us," he said, his voice cracking. "My family will never forgive you. They'll make your life hell." "Is that really what you want?" I pulled my arm free. "What I want? Derek, what I want is a boyfriend who defends me when his family calls me a prostitute. What I want is a partner who doesn't let his mother grab my phone out of my hands. What I want is someone who loves me for who I am, not what I can give him." "I do love you," he insisted. "I love you so much. This whole night just got out of hand. You know my family can be difficult, but they mean well." "They mean well?" The words exploded out of me. "Derek, your brother just accused me of having a sugar daddy. Your mother implied I was a fraud. Your father suggested I do sex work. In what universe does any of that mean well?" The other diners were watching us like we were the final episode of their favorite drama series. Phones were definitely recording. Tomorrow, this would be everywhere. Eleanor stepped between us. "Derek, let her go." "Grandma, you don't understand. Sarah and I have plans. We're building a life together. If you give her all this money, all this power, it'll change everything." "It should change everything," Eleanor replied sharply. "Because right now, you're with a woman who's more successful than you, smarter than you, and kinder than you. And instead of celebrating that, you've spent 3 years letting your family tear her down so you could feel superior." Derek's face crumpled. "That's not true." You never defended her," Eleanor interrupted. "Not once tonight. Not once in 3 years, I'd wager. You stood by while they made her feel small because it made you feel big." James Chen cleared his throat. "If I might add, young man, I've built a successful company by surrounding myself with people smarter than me. Your grandmother is offering this woman an extraordinary opportunity. If you truly loved her, you'd be proud, not threatened." Emma had stopped crying, her face now twisted with pure rage. "You're all insane. Sarah's been playing us this entire time. Don't you see? She probably planned all of this. Probably befriended Grandma Eleanor just to get in the will." I turned to face her slowly. "I met your grandmother for the first time at your birthday party 2 years ago. The same party where you introduced me to your friends as the girl who can't afford to split the bill. I didn't befriend her. She befriended me," Eleanor nodded. "Sarah never asked me for anything. Not advice, not money, not connections. That's precisely why I trust her. She's one of the few people in my life who wants nothing from me." Patricia had gone eerily quiet. She was staring at the trust document in my hands like it was a death warrant. In a way, for her lifestyle, maybe it was. "How long have you been planning this?" Patricia finally asked, her voice hollow. "How long have you been planning to cut your own family out?" "I'm not cutting anyone out," Eleanor said firmly. "You'll all receive your inheritances as originally planned. Trust funds, properties, investments. But the controlling interest in Morrison and Associates and the discretionary trust? Those require someone with integrity. Someone I can trust to carry on my legacy properly." Richard was on his phone now, frantically typing. Probably calling his lawyer. Probably trying to figure out if there was any way to contest this. "You can't do this without a competency hearing," he said suddenly, looking up. "Mother, I'm sorry, but at your age, with a decision this large, we need to ensure you're of sound mind. I had 3 separate psychiatric evaluations done last month," Eleanor said, her voice echoing through the restaurant. "All 3 doctors confirmed I'm perfectly competent. My lawyer has all the documentation. This is ironclad, Richard. Accept it." Marcus threw his napkin on the table. "Fine. You want to give your fortune to some girl you barely know? Go ahead. But don't expect us to stick around and watch you destroy everything our family built." "Your family built?" Eleanor laughed bitterly. "Marcus, you've never worked a real day in your life. You live off the trust fund I set up for you. The only thing you've ever built is a drinking problem and a reputation for mediocrity." The words hung in the air like acid. Todd, Emma's fiancé, stood up carefully. "I think maybe we should all take a breath. Let cooler heads prevail. This has been an emotional evening for everyone." "Sit down, Todd," Emma hissed. "This doesn't concern you." "Actually, it does," he said quietly. Because if Sarah designed the platform that saved my business, then I owe her. Not judgment, not cruelty, gratitude. Emma stared at him like he'd betrayed her, but it was Derek's next words that shattered everything. Derek's face had gone from desperate to cold in the span of seconds. I watched the transformation happen in real time. The mask slipping. The real person underneath finally showing himself. "You know what, Sarah? Take the money," he said, his voice flat. "Take all of it. Because now I finally understand what you really are." "And what's that?" I asked, my voice steady despite the knife I felt twisting in my chest. "A gold digger who played the long game." The words hit me like a physical blow. After everything. After 3 years. After watching his family humiliate me. He was still choosing them over me. "Excuse me?" I whispered. "You heard me," Derek continued, warming to his narrative now. His family was nodding along, encouraging him. "You kept your money secret on purpose. You made yourself look poor so I'd feel protective of you. So my family would underestimate you. And then you waited. Waited for the perfect moment to swoop in and steal my grandmother's fortune." James Chen stood up abruptly. "Young man, that is perhaps the most idiotic thing I've heard all evening, and the bar was already quite low." "Stay out of this," Derek snapped. "This is between me and my girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend," I corrected quietly. "As of right now?" Derek's confident expression faltered. "You don't mean that." "I absolutely mean that." Because in 3 years together, I thought I knew who you were. I thought you were kind. I thought you were decent. I thought eventually you'd stand up to your family's cruelty. But you never did. And now I know why. Because you're exactly like them. Patricia moved to stand beside her son, putting a possessive hand on his shoulder. "Don't let her manipulate you, Derek. She's trying to make you feel guilty so you won't expose her schemes." "What schemes?" I demanded, turning to face her. "What exactly have I schemed? I worked hard. I built a business. I saved money. I lived modestly. The only thing I'm guilty of is not broadcasting my success to people who would have treated me differently because of it." "You deceived us," Patricia insisted. "You let us think you were poor." "I let you reveal who you really are," I shouted, finally losing my composure. "I let you show me that you only value people based on their bank accounts, that you only show respect when you think someone is worth something financially. And you all failed that test spectacularly." Eleanor was watching me with something like pride in her eyes. "Well said, child." Emma had her phone out, recording. "Everyone's going to see this. Everyone's going to know what kind of person you really are, Sarah." "Good," I said, turning to face her camera directly. "Let them see. Let them see a woman who worked her way up from nothing. Let them see a woman who got humiliated by her boyfriend's family for being poor and then revealed she had more money than all of them. Let them see exactly what happened here tonight." Richard was still on his phone, now openly talking to someone. His lawyer, probably. "Yes, I need you to look into contesting a trust establishment on the grounds of undue influence. The beneficiary is, yes, she's dating my son. Was dating my son." Eleanor sighed heavily. "Richard, save yourself the legal fees. I've had 5 different law firms review every document. There's no undue influence. There's no incompetence. There's just a smart business decision that you're too proud to accept." She turned to me, her expression softening. "Sarah, I need you to understand something. This isn't a gift. This is a responsibility. If you accept this, you'll be managing investments, making business decisions, and yes, dealing with my family's resentment for the rest of your life." "Why me?" I asked, my voice breaking. "You barely know me, Eleanor. Why trust me with something this massive? Because in 2 years of watching you, I never once saw you be cruel. Not to a waiter. Not to a homeless person on the street. Not to my family, even when they deserved it. You have something money can't buy, Sarah. You have character." Derek laughed bitterly. "Character? She's been lying to us for 3 years. I never lied," I said firmly, looking him directly in the eyes. "You never asked about my finances. You just assumed. You saw the bookstore job and decided that was all I was worth. Every expensive dinner you treated me to? I could have paid for it 10 times over. Every time you implied I was lucky to be with you, I was the one settling. His face went red. Settling? I'm a senior analyst at a Fortune 500 company. I have a degree from Princeton. I have a future and I have a present, I interrupted. A present where I'm successful, independent, and surrounded by people who actually respect me. Or at least I will be once I walk away from you and your toxic family. Marcus slammed his hand on the table again. This is unbelievable. Grandma, if you go through with this, you're dead to me. Eleanor's face went pale, but her voice remained steady. Then I suppose I'm dead to you, Marcus. Because I'm absolutely going through with this. The envelope was still in my hands. The contract. The trust document. My entire future wrapped in paper. James Chen approached me quietly. Miss Sarah, if I may offer some advice? Whatever you decide, make sure it's for you. Not for them, not against them. For you. I looked down at the papers. $50 million. $250,000 salary. Power. Influence. Everything Derek's family valued. And then I looked at Derek. At the man I'd loved. At the stranger I now saw. I need to know something first, I said to Eleanor. One question before I decide anything. Ask me anything, child. Did you plan this? The dinner, the humiliation, all of it? Was this some kind of test? Eleanor's face showed genuine surprise. What? No, I came to dinner to give you the envelope privately later. The humiliation was all them. Watching them treat you that way just confirmed what I already knew. I nodded slowly. Then I made my decision. I looked at the envelope in my hands one more time. Felt the weight of it. The future it represented. The life it could give me. Then I set it down on the table. I can't accept this, Eleanor, I said quietly. The restaurant erupted into chaos again. Derek looked triumphant. Patricia actually smiled. Marcus pumped his fist like he'd won something. But Eleanor just watched me calmly, waiting. Not like this, I continued. Not tonight. Not in the middle of all this drama and anger. This is too important a decision to make when I'm hurt and angry and emotional. I picked up the envelope again and handed it back to Eleanor. Give me a week. Let me think about what this really means. Let me process everything that happened tonight. And then, if you still want to offer this to me, we'll talk. Properly. Without an audience. Eleanor's eyes glistened with tears. You're refusing $50 million because you want to make sure you're making the decision for the right reasons? Yes. That's exactly why you're the right person, Eleanor said, her voice cracking with emotion. She pulled me into a hug, her frail arms surprisingly strong. You're the only person in my life who would turn down money to maintain their integrity. Thank you for proving me right, child. Patricia's smile had vanished. Wait, you're not accepting? Then what was all this for? This was me standing up for myself, I said, turning to face her. This was me showing you that I don't need your approval. I don't need your respect. I don't need anything from you. I never did. I looked at Derek, really looked at him, memorized his face one last time. 3 years ago, I met a man who made me laugh, who talked about books and art and ideas, who seemed different from all the corporate types I'd dated before. But that man doesn't exist, does he? He was just a character you played. Sarah, that's not fair, Derek started. What's not fair is watching the person you love let their family destroy you piece by piece. What's not fair is being called a gold digger by someone who's been taking money from you for months. What's not fair is realizing the man you loved never actually existed. I grabbed my coat and purse. I'm keeping the receipts, by the way. Every dinner I paid for. Every gift I bought. Every loan you never paid back. It totals about $12,000. You have 30 days to pay me back or I'll take you to small claims court. Derek's face went white. You're seriously going to what? Stand up for myself? Demand basic respect? Yes, Derek. I'm seriously going to do all of that. Emma was still recording, but her expression had changed. She looked almost uncertain now. Sarah, look, maybe we all overreacted. Maybe we can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, Emma. You showed me exactly who you are. All of you did. And I'm choosing to believe you. James Chen walked over and handed me his business card. Ms. Sarah, Regardless of what you decide about Eleanor's offer, I'd like to discuss some potential contracts with you. Your work is exceptional, and I have several projects that could use your expertise. Thank you, Mr. Chen, I said, taking the card. I'll call your office next week. Richard had ended his phone call and was watching me with new eyes. Calculating eyes. Sarah, perhaps we were too hasty tonight. Emotions were running high. Maybe we could schedule a proper meeting to discuss. No, I said simply. I don't do business with people who disrespect me. I turned to Eleanor one last time. I'll call you in a week. We'll have coffee. Just the two of us. And we'll talk about everything properly. No drama, no audience, no pressure. I'd like that very much, Eleanor said softly. And Sarah? Regardless of what you decide about the money, I hope you know how proud I am of you. How impressed I am by your strength. Tears threatened to spill, but I held them back. Thank you, Eleanor. That means more than you know. I walked toward the exit, my heels clicking on the marble floor. Every eye in the restaurant followed me. Every phone captured this moment. The girl who turned down $50 million. The girl who walked away from it all. But I wasn't done yet. At the door, I stopped. Turned around one last time. Oh, and Derek, I called across the restaurant. He looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. Yes? The bookstore job I'm so proud of? I own the bookstore. I bought it 6 months ago. I'm not an employee. I'm the owner. I just never told you because I wanted to see if you'd still love me when you thought I was just. A bookstore clerk. The silence that followed was absolute. You failed that test too, I added quietly. Then I walked out into the night air, leaving behind the restaurant, the family, and the life I'd thought I wanted. My phone started buzzing immediately. Text after text, call after call, but I ignored them all. Except one. A text from an unknown number. This is Todd, Emma's fiancé. I'm sorry for how they treated you. You didn't deserve any of that. Also, I'd like to hire you to redesign my entire business platform. The one you built was good, but I think we could do even better together. No family involvement, just business. Interested? I smiled for the first time all night. Maybe something good would come from this disaster after all. 1 week later, I sat across from Eleanor at a small cafe 3 blocks from my bookstore. Not Marcello's, not anywhere expensive or flashy, just a quiet place with good coffee and better pastries. Eleanor looked smaller somehow without her family around. More human, less like the powerful matriarch, and more like a tired old woman who'd lived too long and seen too much. You came, she said, relief evident in her voice. I said I would. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. The cafe was nearly empty. Mid-morning on a Tuesday, the peaceful time between breakfast rush and lunch crowd. I've been thinking about your offer, I began. Every day, every hour, honestly. $50 million is life-changing money. But, Eleanor prompted gently, but I don't need my life changed. I like my life. I have my bookstore. I have my design business. I have enough money to be comfortable, to travel when I want, to help people I care about. Adding millions more wouldn't make me happier. It would just make me a target. Eleanor nodded slowly. I understand, and I respect your decision, but may I ask you to consider a counter-proposal? I sipped my coffee, curious. I'm listening. Take the consulting position at Morrison & Associates. The $250,000 salary. Help me modernize the company. But the trust, the $50 million, I'll restructure it. Turn it into a foundation. You'd be the director, managing grants and investments that help people. Young entrepreneurs, artists, people trying to build something meaningful. My heart started racing. A foundation? You'd have full control over who receives funding and how much. You'd be able to help people the way I wish someone had helped me when I was young and struggling. People like you, Sarah. People with talent and drive but no family money to fall back on. I felt tears threatening again. Eleanor, that's incredible. But why me? Why not run it yourself? Because I'm dying, child. The doctors gave me 6 months, maybe less. I don't have time to build this the way it deserves. But you do. You have the vision, the integrity and the understanding of what it means to build something from nothing. The cafe felt too small suddenly, too quiet. I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was that serious. Only my doctors knew. Not even my family. They'd have tried to declare me incompetent, rushed the inheritance process, fought over everything before I was even gone. Eleanor reached across the table and took my hand. But you, Sarah, you walked away from $50 million because you wanted to make the right decision. That's the kind of person I need running my legacy. What happened with your family? I asked. After I left? Eleanor smiled grimly. Derek called me 17 times that night. Patricia showed up at my house the next morning with her lawyer. Marcus sent me a 40-page document about why I was making a mistake. Emma posted on social media about how I was being manipulated by a con artist. I'm sorry I caused all that. You didn't cause anything, Eleanor said firmly. They did. With their cruelty, their arrogance, their assumption that money and blood entitle them to everything. You simply held up a mirror and they didn't like what they saw. My phone buzzed. Another text from Derek. The 15th this week. I'd blocked him after the first 50, but he kept finding new numbers. He won't stop contacting me, I admitted. He wants to talk. To explain. To fix things. And what do you want? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I want to remember him the way he was at the beginning. Before I saw who he really was, I want to remember the good parts and let go of the rest. But I don't want him back. That door is closed. Eleanor squeezed my hand. Good. You deserve someone who celebrates your success, not someone who feels threatened by it. There's something else, I said, pulling out my phone. Todd, Emma's fiancé, hired me. He paid a $50,000 deposit for a complete business overhaul. And when Emma found out, she lost her mind. Accused him of betraying the family. They broke up 3 days ago. Eleanor raised her eyebrows. Interesting? He said something to me afterward. He said watching me stand up to all of you made him realize he'd been accepting unacceptable behavior his whole life. That if I could walk away from everything, he could walk away from a toxic relationship. I paused. I think I accidentally helped someone find their spine. That's not an accident, child. That's leadership. That's exactly why I want you running this foundation. I looked at the envelope she'd placed on the table between us. A new contract. A new proposal. A new future. If I do this, I said slowly, I do it my way. No family interference. No Morrison name attached unless I decide it fits. This foundation helps people based on merit, not connections. Agreed. And I keep my bookstore. I keep my design business. This foundation is important, but it's not my entire identity. Agreed. And if any member of your family tries to manipulate or control this foundation, I walk away, immediately. No questions asked. Eleanor smiled. Agreed. It's all in the contract. My lawyers worked overtime to make it ironclad. I picked up the envelope, opened it, read through the pages carefully. Everything she'd promised was there. A salary. A foundation with $50 million in initial funding. Full autonomy. Protection from family interference. At the bottom, a place for my signature. I looked up at Eleanor, at this woman who'd seen something in me that even I hadn't fully recognized. Who'd trusted me with her legacy, who'd believed in me when her own family didn't. One more condition, I said. Name it. You let me take care of you these last months. No more family dinners at Marcello's. No more pretending everything is fine. Just you and me. Having coffee, talking about books and life and what really matters. Let me be there for you the way you've been there for me. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. You'd do that? Spend time with a dying old woman? You're not just a dying old woman, Eleanor. You're my friend. And friends show up for each other. She was crying openly now, not bothering to hide it. I'd like that very much. I picked up the pen. Held it over the signature line. This is really happening, I whispered. Only if you want it to. I thought about the girl I'd been a week ago, sitting at that table, being humiliated, being called names, feeling small. And then I thought about who I was now, who I'd always been, really. Someone who didn't need validation from people who didn't value her. Someone who could walk away from $50 million because integrity mattered more than wealth. Someone who could turn pain into purpose. I signed my name. Sarah Chen, Foundation Director. Future keeper of someone's legacy. Woman who'd turned the worst night of her life into something meaningful. Eleanor lifted her coffee cup. To new beginnings. I lifted mine. To finding family in unexpected places. We clinked cups. Outside, the city moved on. Somewhere, Derek was probably still trying to figure out how he'd lost me. Somewhere, his family was probably still plotting how to contest Eleanor's decisions. Somewhere, people were still valuing others based on money instead of character. But here, in this quiet cafe, two women who'd found each other across a generational divide sat together, planning, dreaming, building something that would outlast both of them. My phone buzzed one more time. Not Derek this time. James Chen. Dinner next week? I have a business proposal that might interest you. And before you worry, it's at a casual restaurant. No dress code, no drama. Just good food and better conversation. I smiled and typed back, I'll bring the ideas. You bring the vision. Let's build something amazing. Because that's what I did now. I built things. Beautiful things. Meaningful things. Things that lasted. And I did it on my own terms, always.